Good evening. Tonight we're diving into a story that's shaping the future of not just India, but the entire global tech landscape. India is racing toward a $60 billion AI and data center boom, with ambitions to become a global tech superpower. The country is investing heavily in digital infrastructure, building sprawling data centers and nurturing a thriving startup ecosystem. The world is watching as India positions itself at the forefront of the digital revolution. But beneath this surge of innovation lies a critical problem. India's digital future is running on a power grid that's stuck in the past. The nation's electrical infrastructure is plagued by frequent blackouts, voltage fluctuations, and chronic instability. While the world sees the gleaming towers of progress, the reality is that the foundation is shaky. Imagine putting a Ferrari engine into a horse-drawn cart. That's the clash between India's high-tech ambitions and its aging electrical infrastructure. The contrast is stark. Cutting-edge technology running on outdated, overburdened systems. It's a recipe for friction, and potentially, for disaster. Data centers, the backbone of the new economy, demand flawless, non-stop power. These facilities run 24/7, processing everything from financial transactions to social media feeds. But the grid groans under even normal demand, let alone the colossal needs of a digital revolution. Every surge in data means a surge in electricity demand, pushing the system to its limits. Headlines celebrate India's data center growth, but rarely mention the invisible cost. Every new server strains an already overburdened system. The excitement about new investments and job creation often overshadows the mounting pressure on the grid and the risks that come with it. The result? A quiet crisis, hidden behind the walls of massive data centers, threatening to short-circuit India's digital dream. These facilities may look secure from the outside, but inside, they're constantly battling the threat of power failure. This isn't just about convenience, it's about whether India's tech boom can survive its own Achilles heel, unreliable electricity. When the power goes out, it's not just lights that flicker, it's the entire digital economy that's at risk, from banking to healthcare to education. So, what happens when the unstoppable force of AI meets the very movable object of a shaky power grid? The collision could stall progress, disrupt businesses, and undermine confidence in India's digital future. The answer could determine the future of India's digital economy. Billions of dollars and millions of jobs are at stake, hinging on the ability to keep the lights on and the servers running. Tonight, we follow the money and the electricity to uncover the real cost of India's tech ambitions. We'll explore who stands to gain, who bears the risk, and what it will take to bridge the gap between vision and reality. It's a story about power, in every sense of the word. Political power, economic power, and the literal power that keeps the digital world alive. And it needs a spotlight before the whole thing gets unplugged. If we don't address these challenges now, the consequences could be far-reaching and irreversible. This is the hidden cost of that $60 billion boom. Let's dive in and see what's really powering India's digital dream, and what could bring it to a halt. What exactly is a data center, and why do they matter so much in our digital world? Think of a data center as the brain of the internet, an invisible powerhouse that keeps our online lives running smoothly, every second of every day. These are giant fortress-like buildings packed with thousands of servers that never sleep, working around the clock. These machines process everything from your emails and social media posts to complex AI models and financial transactions, running millions, sometimes billions, of calculations every single second. The result, a staggering appetite for electricity. Imagine powering an entire city block, not just for a few hours, but 24/7, 365 days a year. That's the scale we're talking about. But it's not just the servers themselves. All that relentless computing generates intense heat, so data centers need massive industrial-scale cooling systems. In fact, sometimes up to 40% of their entire energy bill goes just to air conditioning and keeping things cool, and the power supply must be flawless. Even a millisecond's interruption can cause catastrophic data loss, disrupt critical services, and cost millions in downtime. That's why data centers have layers of backup, giant batteries that can instantly take over if the main power fails, and diesel generators always on standby, ready to roar to life at the slightest flicker or outage. They simply can't rely on a shaky grid. For most of us, a power cut is an inconvenience. For a data center, it's an existential threat that could bring the digital world to a halt. The demand for power is relentless and the stakes are sky high. Every second counts and there's no room for error. Data centers need electricity that's not just abundant, but absolutely perfectly reliable no matter what. In India, that's a tall order. The grid is often stretched to its limits, making reliability a constant challenge. And it's only getting harder as AI ramps up the pressure, demanding even more power and generating even more heat. The power struggle is just beginning, and the future of our digital world depends on how we meet this challenge. Let's put this in perspective. A single large data center in India can consume 100 to 200 megawatts, enough to power a city of 1 million people. Just 2 or 3 data centers can match the electricity demand of an entire city like Chandigarh. Imagine a city with no people, just servers, demanding perfect power all the time. The rise of AI is making things worse. Training one large AI model can use as much electricity as 100 Indian households in a year, and companies are constantly retraining these models, sending demand skyrocketing. When a company builds a data center, it's making a massive long-term claim on a region's power resources. If the grid can't keep up, blackouts become more frequent for everyone else. The choice of where to build a data center can literally dim the lights for the city next door. It's a zero-sum game if the power supply doesn't grow just as fast. The stakes are enormous, and the pressure on the grid is only increasing. India's digital future depends on solving this equation. India's pitch to data center investors is simple: cheap, abundant power to fuel the digital revolution. But peel back the surface, and the reality is far more expensive, and much dirtier than it first appears. The national grid is notoriously unreliable, plagued by frequent outages and voltage fluctuations. To keep their servers running 24/7, data centers are forced to build their own backup systems, massive banks of batteries, and fleets of diesel generators, each the size of a shipping container. And diesel, especially at this scale, isn't cheap. Generating your own power this way can cost 3 to 4 times more than grid electricity, eating into profits and driving up operational expenses. In cities like Mumbai and Chennai, some data centers end up running on diesel for as much as 20% of the year, sometimes even more, during peak demand or monsoon disruptions. That's not just backup power anymore. That's business as usual, a routine part of daily operations. This hidden cost quietly erodes any price advantage India claims to offer, making the cheap power promise more myth than reality. Worse still, it's an environmental disaster in the making, burning huge amounts of fossil fuels right in the heart of urban areas, adding to already severe air pollution. The dream of a clean digital economy, not so clean when the servers are humming on diesel, spewing out carbon and particulates with every megawatt. Companies may tout their green credentials and sustainability goals, but behind the marketing, their servers are powered by one of the dirtiest fuels imaginable. The promise of cheap, clean power is, in reality, a costly and polluting illusion, one that's hard to ignore as the haze thickens. The true cost of India's data center boom isn't just measured in rupees, but in diesel burned and smog breathed by millions. And now the world is starting to notice, as headlines about pollution and power woes make global news. The myth of cheap power is running on fumes, both literally and figuratively, as India's digital ambitions collide with the harsh reality of its energy infrastructure. How does India compare to the West? In the US, UK, and Germany, grid reliability is a given. Power cuts are rare, not routine. Their main concern is the price of electricity, not whether it's available. Data centers cluster in places with robust infrastructure: Virginia, Oregon, Frankfurt, where power is stable and predictable. In India, the grid tariff may be half that of the UK, but if you're burning diesel for 20% of your needs at 4 times the cost, the math gets ugly. The blended cost of power in India can rival or even exceed Western prices. Global companies want predictability, not just low prices on paper. An unreliable grid introduces operational and financial risks that don't exist in mature markets. To compete globally, India must offer not just cheap power, but reliably cheap power. Otherwise, it's a European price for a developing world service. The world's tech giants are watching, and they have options. India's ambition to be a global data hub hinges on fixing this fundamental flaw. The race is on. Experts are sounding the alarm. The Takshashila Institution found data centers in major Indian cities rely on diesel for up to 800 hours a year, over a month of backup power. Their verdict: the current model is unsustainable. India's national renewable energy goals clash with the local reality. Data centers are becoming major fossil fuel consumers. The rush to build without fixing the grid is creating islands of diesel-powered infrastructure. This undermines climate commitments and drives up costs for everyone. There's also a mismatch. Solar power is plentiful by day, but data centers run 24/7. At night they fall back on coal or diesel. Policy is lagging behind technology. Without rules mandating clean energy or reliable supply, the digital economy is built on a shaky foundation. The warning is clear. Without urgent action, India's digital future will be expensive, polluting, and unstable. For companies building data centers in India, choosing a power source is a strategic gamble. The options: connect to the local state-run grid, ubiquitous but unreliable, or try to access the more stable central grid. State grids are everywhere, but plagued by outages and political interference. The central grid is more reliable, but access is costly, complex, and limited to the biggest players. This creates a two-tiered system. Global tech giants can afford premium power, while smaller domestic centers are stuck with risky state grids. The result? Uneven competition and higher costs for local players. The choice of grid can make or break a multi-million-dollar facility. Until the whole system is upgraded, India's data center boom will be divided by access to reliable electricity. The power gap is real and growing. The future of digital India depends on closing it. The obvious solution is clean energy, and India is a solar powerhouse. The dream data centers running on renewables powered by the sun. But the sun sets, the wind stops, and data centers need power every second. Nuclear power could be the answer, constant carbon-free electricity. But new plants take decades, and small modular reactors are still a distant hope. For now, the reality is messy. Data centers sign deals to buy renewable power, but still need backup for when the sun isn't shining. Large-scale battery storage could help, but building it is a massive challenge. The immediate future is a hybrid. Renewables, batteries, and a desperate hope the grid improves. There's no magic bullet, just a difficult, expensive path forward. The clean energy transition is underway, but it won't solve today's crisis overnight. India's digital dream depends on bridging the gap, fast. The clock is ticking. India stands at a crossroads. One path leads to global AI leadership, built on strong, clean, reliable power. The other, a future choked by diesel fumes and constant power cuts where the tech boom fizzles out. The solution starts with treating the grid as the top priority, investing in modern infrastructure, and fixing the financial health of state utilities. Reliability must be the goal. Without it, every other policy is just window dressing. Next, policy must catch up fast-track approvals for clean power, easier access to renewables, and strict standards for efficiency and backup. Make clean energy the easy, cheap option, not the hard, expensive one. The AI revolution won't wait. If India can't deliver reliable power, investment will go elsewhere. Missing this moment would be a historic mistake. India has the talent and ambition to lead, but only if it can keep the lights on. The digital dream runs on electricity. It's time to make sure the switch works. The future is bright if India powers up. The choice is now.